to like today, I think we're at a very interesting period. And Chris knows, and now you will. I'm kind of a big fan of crypto and Bitcoin. Um, and let me just kind of explain my experience with it. My experience with it was I had this startup, and this guy was working for me. He was my chief technical officer. And he was just like, oh, hey, I just got another Bitcoin on my computer. He was actually mining it on his laptop. And at that point, I thought, maybe I should like download whatever he has on his laptop and kind of run that on mine. Of course, I didn't. But we went this other path, kind of trading virtual goods. And then about in 2013, I kind of, I was getting really into it. My accountant was working for this company that was selling these machines to mine it quicker. And at this point, the price was about 300. No, sorry, it was 600 at Bitcoin. And I remember I was telling another friend of mine, who's a techie person who worked at Wells Fargo, and they're like, oh, no, don't get involved in that. And they showed me this analyst, a Wells Fargo analyst paper that was kind of top secret at the time. It's like, this is why you don't want to do it. It's going to go down. And sure enough, it went down to like 300. And then now, like fast forward to today, I think it's hovering right around 19,000. It hit an all-time high yesterday. And to me, the big difference is I read the white paper, and I think few people really understand that. A lot of people think it's a Ponzi scheme, but it's basically this white paper, and the kind of underlying technology behind it is so, in my opinion, structurally sound. There's so much computing power that's led to this point in time that it's, in my opinion, pretty unhackable. It's it's not like pumping a stock, in my opinion. But I was kind of curious what your take on everything is on crypto, and especially now the Fed pumping out all this money, and like what does a young player do at this point?
Well, I mean, as far as crypto, I don't think there's any way to really know. I was talking to Chris about this a week or two ago. There's really no way to know what's going to happen with it. Governments could step in and just make it illegal, and then it becomes like a black market thing, and that would severely hurt the value. It could become the new gold, in which case it could go to, $1 million, like McAfee. Wait a minute, isn't McAfee supposed to have eaten his dick by now?
You may have.
What's going on with that? I haven't stayed up on that, but I believe he's over. Sure. I believe he's overdue for a feeding. Anyway, he had said a few years ago, if it didn't go to $1 million, he would eat his own dick or something like that. I don't know. So he was wrong on that, but I think there's just no way to know. There's a lot of people have a lot of opinions.
Well, Chip, you're super conservative in this way,
and I think it might be prudent to have a small percentage of your portfolio, if you have a portfolio, whatever that is, in Bitcoin and some in gold. I had a small amount. My wife and I had a small amount in gold, and now it's become a large amount. It's become oversized. And same would be case if you were fortunate. The problem is with all of these things is holding them. There's a lot of people who would have bought Bitcoin at 300 and when it back to 600, they go, "Ooh, I doubled my money, I doubled my money, wow, I'm going to sell, it's very hard to hold on to these things."
Yeah.
It seems, you look in hindsight, what's called survivor bias, which is you hear about the people who did hold, but for every one of those, there's probably 10,000 people who didn't, and you don't hear about them. So you hear these spectacular stories, so you kind of have to make a decision. Like with gold, my wife has decided she's just like basically never going to sell. And that's really the function of it should be in your portfolio. It's not something you trade. Well, you can trade something also. That's another story. But as far as Bitcoin or gold or both, it just makes sense to, since nobody can predict the future that far out. Just put, I don't know, 10% of your, I mean, if you say you put 5% of your portfolio into Bitcoin at $20,000, right? And it goes to 1 million, that's, you've done pretty well. You're even at 5%, you're going to be very happy. At 10%, you're probably set for life, right? So you don't need to put that much of your portfolio into any of these things. If indeed Bitcoin becomes the new gold, it is going to go much, much, much higher. There's no question. I mean, the math is very simple to work out. If everybody in the universe, wants to own a little bit of Bitcoin, there isn't that much to go around. How much is it going to be? It's going to be very, very expensive. So it's not, that's my opinion. It's just not insane to have some percentage of it that if you lose it all, it won't hurt you. But if it becomes the next gold, it will help you a lot. That's all I can. That's as far as I can see with Bitcoin.
Right.
But Chip, that's a super conservative approach. So, like, can you talk about trading? Because I think that's where you.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing. Now, see, Bitcoin. Again, I'm still like that poker player. I'm not a gambler. I understand technical patterns very well, and I also know from having been in serious hedge fund community that these technical patterns are highly researched and don't work. People imagine they work. It's like the placebo effect. But believe me, if any of these simple technical patterns worked, they would be arbed out by JP Morgan and Goldman, and there would be, these guys have massive computing power. If there were any technical patterns that you or I could see, they would be all over it. Like it would be arbed out of the market. So I don't see how something like Bitcoin, which trades on purely what's the word for it? Well, you could call it technical. It's supply and demand, but it's based on emotion more than anything, and news flow and stuff like that. I don't see how you could probably really trade that successfully, except to just buy low, sell high randomly.